Hi folks, we are back at the World Championship and this is now the top 8 game and I'm playing against Greyjoy Fealty. So this is the most common deck in this tournament, a lot of entries and a lot of them made the cut as well. I think some crazy number in the top 16, about half of them or something like that. We'll check the exact stats later. But I thought my deck actually had a pretty decent matchup against this. And I have my Robert on setup again. And for some reason I mulliganed this, so I could have had a 3-card setup, I guess, with Red Priest, Devan and Stormwind Fiefdom, and then try to play Robert in round 1. But okay, took a chance on a mulligan and seems pretty good. I can set up the same 3 cards that I had in one of the previous games, just the 3 locations, and that's plenty of economy. And should be able to get a decent board. But my opponent gets a good setup as well with Alanis. Of course, is the main draw source for Greyjoy decks in this tournament. Okay, so with 9 gold from the plot, it should turn into something like 14 with all of those locations. And I can play Delena with another Chad that she brings with her, of course, and that Shadow Priestess, so things looking pretty good. And I have Storm's End as well. Well, okay, going first. And yeah, decent enough, but missing some of the key cards here, of course. Could have done with Robert or Melisandre. Now it will be difficult to control everything that Greyjoy brings out. And let's make the calculations. So it will be 11 gold after Delena. So could play Storm's End. Or I could play all the characters, but then it's difficult to play Storm's End after that. Yeah, the shadow characters, well, there is any chance of first snow. It's nice to put something into shadows, but don't know how realistic it is in this deck. If I want to bring her out, of course, that's all of my gold. And then I have 1 left for Sin in Flames. Fortunately, no lore character to play Sin in Flames first. Which means I would... yeah, the Priestess could potentially get cancelled, of course. Definitely some cards that I do not want to see in this game. And well, here we have an interesting one. So Pike, yeah, unfortunately can't target King's Landing. It's the first time I'm seeing this in play in this championship. There were some rumors about it from other players that were not at all happy with playing against Pike, but yeah, this is the first time for me, and it is annoying. As you can see, it's quite a tempo hit to be able to play King's Landing back, even if Pike cannot actually get rid of it again. But it triggers off itself, and yeah, it's equal cost, not just lower cost, so pretty unfortunate. And the cancel for my Shadow Priestess as well, so I've basically achieved very little in this round, and even Storm's End is not going to work because Meister Morimor can cancel it if he likes. And now my opponent of course has 3 gold left, and yeah, I have Sin in Flames, so probably the thing to do would be to check if there is any warship that can come into play with ambush. Raiding Longship can, it won't be able to trigger this round, but it does give Alanis another card. Okay, Reason would be decent, but look at the characters, Balon, Euron and Victarion. What can you do? What can you do? And all 3 are pretty annoying for my deck. Victarion obviously can stand like crazy if I didn't have Delena, but I do. Then Euron with his Intimidate potentially can bring Silence into play. It's another good tempo play for Greyjoy with that Pike, and yeah, Balon will just get stuff from my discard pile and avoid my need in the marshalling phase, so not very nice. And Melisandre gets pillaged. Good to Wuster. Yeah, here we go. Making the challenge unopposed and drawing, or actually can't use Raiding Longship, never mind. Drawing 1 for Alanis, and there goes my King's Landing. So I had a wonderful setup as far as economy was concerned, but now all of that pretty much gone. Think I might have survived better with yeah, with that first hand with Robert, but if you can imagine, Pike still comes into play and gets rid of one of my chuds, and then Robert is under pressure, of course, with the military. So either way, I would have had problems. Both going for draw. Yeah, lots of draw in my opponent's deck. Greyjoy Fealty with counting coppers and Alanis triggering twice per round, potentially a little more draw than we are used to. Usually it's just a little bit of Alanis and then Asha if she can get Maiden's Bane. Okay, getting King's Landing back. It's a bit tight with the gold. Okay, card in shadows. That's Night Flyer. And used immediately to get rid of what? To get rid of nothing. Get rid of city gates, interesting. Okay, so the chat log here is a bit misleading. Brings Night Flyer out of shadows, costing 0 it says, but I really paid 1 for that. And out of gold at least, so that's all that I will have to suffer this round. Yeah, so I should have 6 gold, or is it 5? Actually, still not done with the reactions. That's a reaction to Night Flyer coming into play, so just brings an eager deckhand into play. And I will only have the 5 gold, so I can potentially play King's Landing and then use it to get 1 gold back, but board is not looking very nice for me. Well, there is trade routes, so I guess with my opponent having a decent number of locations, I can try that next round and get King's Landing into play with that economy card. No, okay, just going for it here. I remember this, a bit baffled by this this question here. Apparently there's something lost in translation, I was later told. I think it was some kind of reference to my marshalling King's Landing back after it had left play. Yeah, but that leaves me with just the 1 gold, unfortunately. Yeah, so I can bring the other gate into play as well, which is a decent investment. Maybe I could have yeah, played some characters here and save this for the trade routes round. Yeah, it will have to be just the reducer. Still haven't drawn anything that would turn it in my favor. No Robert Cilici or Melisandre. And I think Meister more and more will make sure now that yeah, whatever challenges my opponent wants do go through, specifically military. And yeah, unopposed with that trading longship, so probably military unopposed and then unopposed intrigue as well. Seems like the thing to do. Puts me on the back foot. I could just use it to force more and more to kneel, which he does. I think the reducer has to go. No reason to defend because of the raiding longship. And this one I think I can let go as well. And I should be able to win Intrigue and Power back. Maybe can use Set Down or Deeds to try to get a better hand. Not bad. So we know that there is also at least Victarion there. And the reason, those are the cards that I remember. So the score not looking too bad. And now what do we do? Do we play trade routes and try to get a bigger board? Harris is not hitting, so yeah. Guess we take Westeros, which can only take my econ location, so I guess that's just going to do the thing with the Iron Gate that it usually does. I could have gone first here to prevent Iron Gate from being used, but yeah, don't like going first, as you can probably tell. Actually, my opponent won initiative, of course. What am I doing? I was selecting the player for trade routes. Okay, now let's see. Any luck? Hand Judgment. I don't think that was there before when I checked it with Sin in Flames, so must have been drawn later. And that's another card that we see a lot, especially in the Chinese decks. A lot of draw, a lot of cancel, and yeah, timed it nicely against my trade routes. And okay, I have a huge hand, but yeah, just trying to play that obviously signals to my opponent that I don't have anything that would really help me here. And what to do? Devon with 2 gold would be nice, but what can Pike do this round? That's my problem. If I lost him, that would be quite a hit. Should probably just play the Bastard Night Song. Get something impactful. Or am I making the calculation for the Harris here? So my opponent presumably plays the big guy that is now Victarion, I think, and then I try to Harris. Is that the plan? And if he doesn't play him, I have Sin in Flames. Seven reserve with that plot. Seems like a plot that should have 4 or 5 printed reserve. Really some crazy stats, and this is after the redesign, of course. If you remember, the original just took any location as a when revealed effect. And what's this doing now? So Alanis draws a card first, and Silence of course costs 4, which means Pike can do a lot of damage again. Not using it. Interesting. Okay, so silence can be used in challenges. Just checking the locations for we take Westeros. And here comes the customary military challenge with Angoi. Yeah, a bit of a waste. Should have thought this one through because Hagen's daughter, of course, will just go to shadows each time this happens, and now if my plan was to play the Harris, of course she has escaped it. Would be better for me if she was still in play. Opponent is very disciplined here, not playing a lot of characters out, not giving me a good chance to play that reset. And I don't have a card advantage really. I've played my exchange of information, but the opponent also played counting coppers. Then my draw event was cancelled, while his Alan is working pretty nicely here. Fully defends, fair enough. And look at that pillage again, Silisi. I lost Melisandre and Silisi to the pillage triggers. Now should be winning dominance with the chamber. And he hasn't used Eager Deckhand yet. Now let's see. What can I do here? If we get rid of Victorian, that's not looking too bad. He has the saves for Morgulis. This can come into play with that ambush as well, that's slightly annoying. Okay, silence first, so Alanis draws, and what does Spike do? Removes my chamber, nice. Very nicely done, and that's the card I will now draw. Draw back, of course. And we take Westeros, just takes economy, that's fine. So I guess I win dominance, but no, nothing to trigger of that, so 3-3. Yeah, my opponent's hand not too scary, mine is alright, but he has that huge set of locations, and whatever location comes in, of course, triggers Alanis, so he's not running out of cards. And Pike could potentially start removing my characters in the challenges phase. Okay. Just pulling the trigger on this, which is fair enough. I have only the Lena here, that is unique, and I do have close call. And my opponent has now spent the reasons. So surely at least now I should have a decent round. Yeah, could have done with the character here. Nightmares on King's Landing. That limits what I can do. Could have played both characters, but now not so much. And it looks like Pike will... Oh, okay, moves Nightflyer back, so Nightflyer will be drawn at the end of the phase. Yeah, that's quite an annoying little loop. Okay, 7 gold. So what do we do? Just play Bastard Nightsong and Devan, because of course I'm struggling here with my own plot. Won't be able to do a challenge if I don't have 2 characters. But there's no claim, and there shouldn't be any more tricks that would remove my characters from play, I don't think. So I think that I should just play them. The other option is to play 1 character and the locations instead, but doesn't seem like a good deal for me. Yet more draw. And that annoying Hagen's daughter is still in shadows. So if my opponent just passes here, I think he has yeah, plenty of power to defend against my 2 guys. So I can't even win the power challenge with the Bastard Nightsong. Now military I could do. I think. Yeah, even against Iron Blitz Scout should be enough. And my opponent has 2 gold left, so he can... Yeah. He can just kill Hagen's daughter and nothing really achieved here. Challenge still opposed. I'm still losing dominance. But at least he didn't manage to do any challenges. And Throne and Chamber not working in this game. Haven't seen the Throne, but even if I did, I'm guessing yeah, it's small enough for Pike to be able to deal with it. And of course Nightflyer that is now in hand should be pretty annoying. Okay, taking the Lena out of the dead pile just to get an extra card with close call. Now I have the red priests at least, so should be able to take something really annoying, and they shouldn't be really removed, you would need a 3-cost location. Now there is Great Kraken still remaining. Oh, and Bran the Builder played by my opponent, so if he wins the challenge he can find Great Kraken. Not a pleasant sight. He will win a challenge with that Grey Ghost. There is also a Night Flyer, which I should try my best to remove, and Nightmare's annoying Gorold also. Yeah, Alanis is already in play, so if I take Gorold, there's still the Reducer and Hagen's Daughter in Shadows and whatever Alanis draws, so it's a minor victory for me. Nightflyer will be expensive to get rid of King's Landing, at least. Do I take it? Or do I take the Reducer? Just checking what exactly Pike does. Yeah, Grey Ghost will be coming into play. I was pretty optimistically putting this milk on Alanis, thinking I could stop the draw, and my opponent is then out of characters to do any real damage, but yeah, that's not going to work, because Pike can remove my milk. Never once considered that it targets attachments as well. Always had in mind that, okay, it can get rid of characters and locations, and now Alanis draws, of course, from Nightflyer because the milk is gone, and I lose my econ location, so this is all quite a disaster, as you can see. And still nothing really impactful in play. Now if I could somehow win with Bastard of Night Song, that would be okay for me. It seems like my opponent can defend that. And difficult to... If I pass, do I oppose everything? Can I oppose everything? So raiding long ships won't work, because I am first player. And Grey Ghost is not in play. For the moment there is gold to put it into play with ambush if my Red Priest goes away, and of course anything that Bran the Builder finds. Okay, kneeling more and more, who of course can stop Storm's End, but my opponent just plays Nightmares. Yeah, I would have probably turned challenges into power just to try to push something through. Okay, and the last card is Alanis Dupe, of course. Well, in a normal game, getting my opponent down to 0 cards, pretty good deal. Then any kind of card like Silici does a lot of damage. Do I push on? Should probably do power with Bastard Night Song forces characters to nil. Alanis will have to go to defend that successfully, I think. Okay, both of them, that's 7. Takes all 3 and the Iron Fleet Scout to defend this one. Well, all 3, there's actually 4 characters with the power icon, so yeah, not a great deal for me. And Brand the Builder coming. Another Iron Fleet Scout, which can come in for free, of course. And I lose the red keep this time. That's not too bad, because what I really want at this point are characters. And still Alanis is not done. And this again. It achieves nothing attacking in this with these military challenges. Losing my consideration a little bit, I guess. It's yeah, the 8th game of the tournament for me, and this is quite a frustrating one, because my plan is not really working, even though my opponent is not doing much either. He had the 3 big characters in hand when I checked it, of course, Balon, Euron and Victarion, and they've all been discarded. But even without them, yeah, I'm afraid not. The Name of the King would have been decent. Yeah, even though they've all been discarded, just the little guys with this Alanis Loop and Knifeflyer and Pike doing a lot of damage. And now do I lose one of the Red Priests? Kind of have to keep them, don't I? I lose the one that took Gorald. Yeah, this is one Greyjoy deck that is completely resistant to Valar Dohaeris, as you can see. Has so many small characters. I'm not sure, well, given what we've seen in the hand when we checked it, of course, and Gorald now as well is a high cost character. It's unusual, I guess, for my opponent to have a board like this, but it's really preventing me from doing any kind of impactful reset here. I'm doing the Harris anyway, so Red Priest doesn't matter. Against the winner you die. And the pillaged card just now was set down our deeds, which could have drawn 6 cards for me, but at this point I am, of course, there's only 17 minutes remaining and I've gone behind, so it's kind of no longer a viable play. And the Harris doesn't have that much gold, so wouldn't be able to play much. Yeah, seems like this is where my chances could end. As you can see, drew 2 locations, so I'll have to use King's Landing for the draw. If I could just have that set down deeds to bring my power down to 0, that would have done something useful, because I'm about to lose 2 claim power challenge. Not even the gold to play Alistair. Could stick a traitor on Alanis. won't help me much. There's a stealth on the power challenge. And military going through first potentially to kill off my board anyway. Milks don't work, we've seen that already. Ah, here comes Mr. Stand as well. Used to kneel my storms, and fair enough, would have tried 2 power challenges, I guess. But it's not like that works anyway, because Victarion can stand and defend. Nothing to be done, so just oppose, I guess, to try to keep my opponent from getting to 15, and then see what we top deck and what his last plot is. Yeah, not looking good. If it goes to round 8 with all of those locations, just place counting coppers. Or of course another you win or you die. So here we go, forcing Bastard and Nightsong to defend. Okay. Okay, Great Kraken found. That can target the Red Priest, which of course means that Great Ghost can come in, so now nothing will defend. Yeah, not a pleasant experience commentating on this when you see how badly and dramatically it's going downhill. Not too long ago it was something like 4-3 and my opponent had an empty hand and no impactful characters in play, but yeah, that loop with Alanis getting so much draw and Pike doing its thing was really unfortunate, and it's done way better against my deck than the Greyjoy decks that didn't include Pike and didn't go in so heavily on this Alanis draw. But that of course doesn't necessarily mean that this deck is better. We saw that Haren and Alex of course made the top 4 and played quite a familiar Greyjoy deck, pretty conventional one without much focus on these mechanics. So yeah, so there we are. Right, and these are our final standings. As you can see, Greyjoy Fealty winning in the end, and there were 2 others in the top 4 as well. As I said, decks were not exactly the same. Some of these games you can find, they were recorded and streamed on the day. And Bara Valyrian Steel as well, making the final of this event, and that was a really nice deck. And I finished 6th in the end, which is I guess one of my best ever results in a tournament of this stature. And yeah, pretty happy with that, especially since I was determined before the tournament started, or actually after Brand the Builder was released, that I would play some kind of deck that used Storm's End to its full potential, and yeah, Kings of Summer always seemed like the best option for this card because of all the synergies you can get with the Grand Melee. And when we did some testing for the 8 Regents event in the Baratheon team, we also found that Assault from the Shadows worked surprisingly well with Storm's End. Actually, I discovered that, I should say, because some of the other versions that we tested didn't include Storm's End, but yeah, I was really happy with the way it worked in that deck, and it had even better results, slightly better results in testing, but just a day or two before the World Championship deck needed to be submitted, I had a Champions of Westeros League game. I think it was a card game against I think it was against Johannes, and I decided to play that Assault from the Shadows deck and thought, okay, if I win this one, I will definitely take that to the World Championship, and then I had a really bad game and lost heavily, so switched back to Summer in the end, but don't regret my choice at all. So there is a long description here. I won't go into this deck too much here, but really happy that I was able to include a card that was recently released and did so well for me in the tournament, because we actually didn't see that many of these new 5-cost locations apart from Pike, I guess, given the presence of Greyjoy. And also King's Landing is the other one, the neutral 5-cost location that yeah, did amazingly well for me in this tournament. Since then I've played some other games with this Summer deck, just some casual games, and some games in the 8 regions as well, and King's Landing was not that successful, so maybe I was just slightly fortunate here, or I guess yeah, more difficult to play if people are prepared, but seems like a good call at the moment if you run into any kind of political disaster. Having a big location that potentially provides 2 gold and is itself dupable is very useful. We saw that in the past, of course, and we still see it in Tyrell, which can play the Arbor and Redmine Straits and dupe them to help them survive political disaster pretty well. That's why it's probably the most common faction to play that. Yeah, and what else to say? So the rest of the deck is actually pretty old, uses old concepts that have been around for a while. As you see, giving credit here to Hanno Lunser and also to Axel that took this to the European Championship a few years back and won. Not this, but Bara Summer, I guess, based on some similar mechanics and some slightly different ones, but the title of that deck did reference Chef Bob, which was a particularly good card at the time when Greyjoy was also the top opponent, and yeah, did pretty well to kept all the high cost characters knelt on that occasion, and it's done some work for me as well in this tournament a few years later. Alright, so let that be all. Thanks to everyone who watched this World Championship run with me, and yeah, looking forward to more videos in the future. Bye bye.